Good day and welcome to Bright Tobias News Channel. Across Africa and beyond, a question is growing louder with every passing week. Is Captain Ibrahim Traoré under attack, not only on the battlefield, but also politically, economically, and diplomatically? As Burkina Faso continues its pursuit of sovereignty and self-reliance, supporters argue that powerful interests are becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the country's new direction. At the same time, critics accuse Traoré's government of restricting political freedoms and centralizing power. These competing narratives have fueled one of the continent's most controversial political debates. For many Burkina citizens, Ibrahim Traoré represents something Africa has long searched for: a leader who openly challenges dependency, speaks of economic independence, and insists that African resources should primarily benefit African people. His speeches have inspired millions across the continent, especially young Africans who see him as a symbol of resistance against decades of foreign influence. But history has shown that whenever a leader attempts to change long-established systems, resistance almost always follows. Supporters believe the resistance facing Traoré is no coincidence. According to this growing narrative, powerful political networks, international financial interests, and individuals who benefited from the previous order may have little interest in seeing Burkina Faso succeed under a model that reduces external dependence. Whether these perceptions are fully accurate or not, they have become an important part of public debate surrounding his presidency. Since assuming leadership, Traoré has repeatedly insisted that Burkina Faso must rely more heavily on its own resources, strengthen local industries, modernize agriculture, and invest in infrastructure that serves national interests. His administration has also promoted ambitious long-term development initiatives intended to reduce poverty, improve education, and expand industrial production. Supporters argue that these policies threaten long-established economic relationships that have existed for decades. If Burkina Faso proves this model can work, one political analyst remarked during a regional discussion, other African nations may begin asking difficult questions about their own development strategies. Whether one agrees with that assessment or not, there is little doubt that Traoré has become one of Africa's most discussed leaders. Yet while development projects continue making headlines, security challenges remain severe. Burkina Faso continues to face attacks from armed extremist groups operating across the Sahel. Traoré has repeatedly stated that reclaiming national territory remains one of his government's highest priorities, while announcing progress in military operations in several regions. Supporters say these security challenges are not simply military battles. They describe them as attempts to exhaust the government financially, create public fear, discourage investment, and weaken confidence in the state's ability to govern. Whether or not that interpretation is correct, the pressure facing the government is undeniable. The political atmosphere has become even more intense following reports over the past few years of multiple alleged coup plots and assassination attempts targeting Traoré's administration. Burkina Faso's authorities have repeatedly announced that security services disrupted plans aimed at destabilizing the government, although some details remain contested and difficult to independently verify. Every new allegation has added another layer of uncertainty. Every announcement has reignited discussions about who stands to gain from instability. Every rumor has fueled fresh speculation across Africa. On social media, many supporters argue that Traoré is paying the price for refusing to follow the traditional political script. His critics, however, respond that strong leadership must also be accompanied by respect for democratic institutions, media freedom, and political pluralism. International human rights organizations have raised concerns over restrictions affecting journalists and opposition voices during his administration. This sharp divide has transformed Ibrahim Traoré into more than just Burkina Faso's leader. He has become a symbol. To supporters, he symbolizes African sovereignty. To critics, he represents the risks of concentrating power during prolonged military rule. As these opposing views continue to collide, one reality remains clear. Every speech he delivers now receives enormous international attention. Every policy announcement is carefully analyzed. Every diplomatic move sparks new debates. Even Burkina Faso's ambitious 2026 to 2030 National Development Framework has attracted significant international interest because of its emphasis on financing much of the country's transformation through domestic resources rather than relying predominantly on foreign support. But behind the headlines lies an even bigger question. If Burkina Faso succeeds in transforming its economy while maintaining its independent course, could other African countries begin exploring similar paths? Or will the mounting political, security, and economic pressures prove too overwhelming? For now, no one can answer with certainty. What is certain, however, is that the pressure surrounding Ibrahim Traoré appears far from over. And according to observers across the continent, the coming months may determine whether his vision survives the growing storm, or whether the forces opposing him become even more determined. The next phase takes us deeper into the hidden geopolitical battle, examining why some believe Burkina Faso has become the center of a much larger struggle over Africa's future. As the debate surrounding Ibrahim Traoré grows more intense, many political observers believe that what is happening in Burkina Faso can no longer be viewed in isolation. They argue that the country has become part of a wider geopolitical contest, where regional influence, natural resources, security partnerships, and economic interests intersect. Burkina Faso possesses significant mineral wealth, particularly gold, which remains one of its largest export commodities. For decades, foreign companies have played an important role in the country's mining sector. Under Traoré's leadership, however, the government has repeatedly emphasized the need for Burkinabe citizens to benefit more directly from their natural resources through greater local participation and value addition. Supporters say this represents a major shift. According to them, every nation has the sovereign right to determine how its resources are managed and who benefits from them. They believe that if Burkina Faso succeeds in strengthening national control over strategic industries while increasing domestic processing, it could encourage similar conversations elsewhere across Africa. Others, however, caution that such transitions are rarely simple. International investors often seek predictable regulatory environments before committing billions of dollars to long-term projects. Any uncertainty, whether political, legal, or security-related, can affect investment decisions. As a result, the balance between asserting sovereignty and maintaining investor confidence has become one of the defining challenges facing the current administration. Yet despite these concerns, Traoré has continued to project confidence. At military ceremonies, national celebrations, and public addresses, he has repeatedly encouraged citizens to remain resilient and united, insisting that lasting development requires sacrifice, discipline, and patience. Those speeches have resonated strongly with many young Africans. Across social media platforms, countless videos praising his message have accumulated millions of views. In countries far beyond Burkina Faso, his image has become associated with calls for self-reliance, industrialization, and a renewed sense of African pride. But popularity also brings scrutiny. Every statement is dissected. Every government decision attracts commentary. Every security incident quickly becomes the subject of competing narratives. When violence occurs, some voices argue it demonstrates the immense security burden facing Burkina Faso. Others claim it reflects the difficulty of governing amid persistent insurgencies. These differing interpretations often dominate discussions long before verified facts become available. Analysts also point to the information battlefield. In today's interconnected world, influence is exercised not only through diplomacy and economics but also through public opinion. Competing narratives spread rapidly online, making it increasingly difficult for ordinary citizens to distinguish verified reporting from speculation. This has created an atmosphere where rumors can travel across the continent within hours. Supporters frequently claim that misinformation is being used to weaken public confidence in Traoré's leadership. Critics counter that governments must also ensure transparency and accountability to prevent misinformation from flourishing. Regardless of which perspective one holds, one fact remains undeniable. Burkina Faso now commands far greater international attention than it did just a few years ago. Meanwhile, cooperation among the member states of the Alliance of Sahel States has continued to reshape regional politics. Supporters view this partnership as an opportunity for greater security cooperation and economic coordination, while critics question whether it can overcome the immense challenges facing the region. For Traoré, however, every new alliance appears to carry both opportunity and risk. The more Burkina Faso pursues an independent course, the more closely its actions are watched by governments, international organizations, investors, and security analysts around the world. And with that attention comes increasing pressure. Pressure to deliver security. Pressure to improve living standards. Pressure to demonstrate that the promises made to the people can become lasting realities. Whether those pressures stem from ordinary political expectations or from broader geopolitical competition remains a subject of intense debate. What cannot be denied is that the stakes continue to rise. Behind closed doors, diplomats hold meetings. Military planners assess regional developments. Economic analysts monitor investment trends. And millions of Africans continue watching Burkina Faso with hope, curiosity, and caution. As events unfold, one question grows even louder. Is Ibrahim Traoré simply navigating the enormous challenges that confront any leader of a country facing conflict? Or has he become the focal point of a much larger struggle over the future direction of Africa? The next phase explores the growing regional implications of his leadership, the reactions from neighboring countries, and why every move made by Burkina Faso now appears to carry consequences far beyond its own borders. As the conversation surrounding Ibrahim Traoré continues to spread across Africa, attention is increasingly shifting beyond Burkina Faso's borders. What began as a national political transition has evolved into a regional story that governments, analysts, and citizens are all watching closely. Supporters argue that Traoré's message has resonated because it speaks to frustrations that many Africans have expressed for years. Calls for stronger local industries, better management of natural resources, improved security, and greater economic independence have found an audience well beyond the Sahel. At the same time, observers caution that admiration alone cannot overcome the practical realities facing Burkina Faso. The country continues to battle a persistent insurgency, rebuild institutions, and address humanitarian challenges affecting many communities. These are immense tasks for any government, and progress is often slower than public expectations. Yet despite these difficulties, Traoré has continued to project confidence. In public appearances, he has repeatedly urged citizens to remain united, warning that divisions within society could become one of the country's greatest vulnerabilities. His administration has consistently emphasized national solidarity as a necessary ingredient for overcoming both security and economic challenges. For many supporters, this message has become more than political rhetoric. It has become a rallying cry. Across universities, community gatherings, and online discussions, debates continue over whether Burkina Faso is witnessing the beginning of a new development model or simply navigating an exceptionally difficult period in its history. But alongside this growing support has come another challenge: intense international scrutiny. Every major policy announcement now attracts immediate analysis. Every diplomatic visit is interpreted through competing political lenses. Every security incident generates a flood of speculation before official investigations are complete. Analysts note that in today's digital age, perception can become almost as influential as reality. A single unverified claim can travel across multiple countries within minutes. An edited video can shape public opinion before fact-checkers have time to respond. False reports can inflame tensions, while genuine developments may become overshadowed by misinformation. This information battle has become one of the defining features of modern politics. Some commentators argue that campaigns aimed at influencing public opinion can undermine trust in governments, while others stress that independent journalism and open debate remain essential for accountability. Distinguishing between verified reporting, opinion, and rumor has therefore become increasingly important. Meanwhile, questions continue to surround Burkina Faso's future economic direction. Government officials have spoken about expanding local manufacturing, increasing agricultural productivity, improving infrastructure, and ensuring that more value from the country's natural resources remains within the national economy. Supporters see these ambitions as evidence that Burkina Faso is attempting to reduce long-term dependence on external assistance. Critics respond that achieving such goals will require sustained investment, stability, and effective institutions over many years. Regardless of where one stands, few dispute that expectations are extraordinarily high. Every success is celebrated. Every setback is amplified. Every delay becomes a topic of public debate. Some regional analysts believe this level of attention reflects the symbolic role Traoré has come to occupy in African political discourse. To admirers, he represents a push for greater self-determination. To skeptics, he is a leader whose promises will ultimately be judged by measurable improvements in security, governance, and living standards. As these debates continue, diplomatic activity around the region has also intensified. Meetings between neighboring governments have focused on security cooperation, cross-border trade, and regional stability. The decisions made in these discussions may have consequences extending far beyond Burkina Faso itself. Behind the scenes, policymakers, military strategists, economists, and diplomats are all watching carefully. Not because they necessarily expect dramatic events overnight, but because the direction Burkina Faso takes could influence conversations across West Africa for years to come. And as expectations continue to rise, so does the pressure on Traoré's administration. The next chapter will explore how domestic expectations, regional alliances, and international reactions are converging, creating one of the most closely watched political stories on the African continent, while examining the difficult choices that may define Burkina Faso's future. As Burkina Faso moves further along this uncertain path, the pressure on Ibrahim Traoré's government appears to be coming from multiple directions at once. While the administration continues to emphasize national development and security, expectations among citizens have never been higher. Many Burkinab hope to see visible improvements in their daily lives: better roads, stronger schools, more employment opportunities, and above all, greater security in communities affected by years of violence. Political analysts often point out that this is one of the greatest challenges for any government leading a country through conflict. People can be inspired by speeches. They can rally behind patriotic messages. But over time, they also expect measurable results. Supporters of TRAORÉ argue that meaningful transformation cannot happen overnight. They believe decades of structural challenges require patience and sustained effort, particularly while the country continues to confront armed extremist groups operating in parts of the Sahel. Critics, however, maintain that governments must be judged by their ability to improve conditions on the ground, regardless of the obstacles they inherit. These competing expectations have created an atmosphere where every government announcement receives enormous public attention. When a new agricultural initiative is announced, supporters describe it as another step toward food security. Critics ask how quickly farmers will feel the benefits. When industrial projects are introduced, supporters celebrate them as signs of long-term economic planning. Others question whether sufficient investment and infrastructure exist to achieve the desired outcomes. This constant debate has become part of Burkina Faso's political landscape. Meanwhile, another discussion has been gaining momentum across Africa. Can a country strengthen its independence while remaining fully engaged with the international community? Some observers argue that sovereignty and international cooperation are not mutually exclusive. They believe countries can pursue independent policies while maintaining productive diplomatic and economic relationships. Others believe that whenever governments seek major changes to long-established political or economic arrangements, tensions with external partners can become more likely. Whatever one's perspective, Burkina Faso's foreign policy choices are now watched far more closely than before. Every diplomatic visit, every regional summit, every new agreement, every official statement quickly becomes the subject of headlines and intense discussion. Behind closed doors, diplomats continue searching for common ground on issues ranging from regional security to economic cooperation. At the same time, security officials remain focused on the ongoing threat posed by extremist violence, recognizing that lasting development depends heavily on improving stability across affected regions. Yet perhaps the greatest challenge facing Traoré's administration is not only military or economic. It is maintaining public confidence. History has shown that governments undergoing major reforms often depend on continued public trust. Once that trust begins to weaken, even well-intentioned policies can become far more difficult to implement. For this reason, communication has become almost as important as policy itself. Supporters increasingly use social media to defend the government's actions and highlight reported achievements. Opponents use the same platforms to question official narratives and call for greater transparency. As millions follow these conversations online, the battle over public opinion continues to intensify. In many ways, this has become a contest of narratives as much as a contest of policies. One side insists Burkina Faso is laying the foundation for a stronger and more self-reliant future. The other argues that promises must ultimately be matched by lasting improvements in governance, security, and the everyday lives of citizens. Only time will determine which view proves more persuasive. For now, Ibrahim Traoré remains one of Africa's most closely watched leaders. Every decision carries enormous expectations. Every challenge is magnified. And every success, or setback, echoes far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. But even as attention focuses on domestic reforms and regional diplomacy, questions continue to circulate about unseen pressures, political rivalries, and the broader geopolitical interests surrounding the Sahel. In the next chapter, we examine how regional developments, shifting alliances, and the expectations of millions of Africans continue to shape the debate around Burkina Faso's future, and why the coming months may prove decisive for the country's long-term direction. As the months pass, one thing has become increasingly clear. The conversation surrounding Ibrahim Traoré is no longer confined to Burkina Faso. Across West Africa, university campuses, political forums, television debates, and social media platforms are filled with discussions about what his leadership could mean for the future of the region. Some see him as the face of a new generation of African leadership, one that places national sovereignty, economic reform, and self-reliance at the center of public policy. Others urge caution, arguing that the true measure of any government is not the popularity of its message but the long-term outcomes it delivers for its people. Between these two perspectives lies a reality that is far more complex. Burkina Faso remains engaged in a difficult fight against armed extremist groups, while also attempting to strengthen public institutions, attract investment, and improve living conditions for millions of citizens. These challenges require significant financial resources, sustained political stability, and continued public confidence. Yet supporters insist that the greatest obstacle may not be found within Burkina Faso's borders. They argue that whenever a nation attempts to redefine its political and economic priorities, it naturally attracts greater international attention. Decisions that might once have passed unnoticed are now examined by governments, investors, regional organizations, and international observers. Every diplomatic handshake is analyzed. Every economic announcement is scrutinized. Every military operation is debated. And every speech delivered by Traoré is interpreted through different political lenses. This intense spotlight has fueled widespread speculation. Some commentators believe Burkina Faso is simply experiencing the pressures that accompany major political change. Others argue that external geopolitical interests inevitably become more active whenever strategic regions undergo significant transformations. While these viewpoints differ, there is broad agreement on one point. The Sahel has become one of the world's most strategically important regions due to its security challenges, natural resources, and geographic position. As a result, developments in Burkina Faso increasingly draw attention far beyond Africa. Inside the country, however, ordinary citizens remain focused on more immediate concerns. Farmers hope for better harvests. Business owners seek economic stability. Young graduates look for employment opportunities. Families simply want to live without fear of violence. These everyday aspirations continue to shape public expectations of the government. Traoré has repeatedly emphasized that national unity is essential if Burkina Faso is to overcome its challenges. In several public addresses, he has encouraged citizens to remain resilient, warning that division could weaken the country's ability to confront both security threats and economic hardship. Political analysts note that maintaining unity during prolonged periods of reform is never easy. Economic reforms often require patience. Security operations can take years before producing lasting results. Infrastructure projects rarely transform a nation overnight. Consequently, governments undergoing ambitious reforms frequently face growing public pressure to demonstrate tangible progress. This is where Burkina Faso now finds itself, caught between enormous expectations and equally enormous challenges. Meanwhile, regional diplomacy continues to evolve. Neighboring governments are carefully monitoring developments, recognizing that stability, or instability, in Burkina Faso can have implications for cross-border trade, migration, and collective security throughout West Africa. International organizations have likewise continued to engage with the region, stressing the importance of humanitarian assistance, conflict resolution, and long-term development alongside security efforts. Against this backdrop, rumors and speculation continue to circulate online. Claims of hidden plots, political maneuvering, and efforts to influence Burkina Faso's future appear regularly across social media. Some of these claims are later supported by official statements or investigations, while many others remain unverified. Analysts consistently caution against treating online speculation as established fact, emphasizing the importance of relying on credible and confirmed information before drawing conclusions. Nevertheless, these narratives have contributed to an atmosphere of uncertainty. For supporters, every rumor reinforces the belief that powerful interests are uneasy with Burkina Faso's chosen path. For critics, the focus remains on whether the government can deliver lasting improvements despite the many obstacles it faces. As these competing narratives continue to unfold, one reality stands above all others. The decisions made in Ouagadougou today are being watched not only by Burkinabe citizens but by millions across Africa and around the world. And just when it appears the political landscape cannot become any more complicated, fresh developments begin to emerge. Developments that could reshape regional alliances, influence future diplomatic relations, and test the resilience of Burkina Faso's leadership in ways few could have anticipated. But those developments deserve a closer examination, because they may hold the key to understanding what comes next. As attention remains fixed on Burkina Faso, one lesson continues to emerge from the debate surrounding Ibrahim Traoré. Leadership in times of crisis is rarely judged by words alone. It is ultimately measured by the ability to navigate uncertainty, protect citizens, strengthen institutions, and create opportunities for future generations. Whether viewed as a reformer, a symbol of African sovereignty, or a leader facing extraordinary challenges, Traoré has undeniably become one of the most closely watched figures on the continent. The claim that the powerful want to silence him has become a popular narrative among many of his supporters. They point to diplomatic tensions, economic pressure, security threats, and repeated reports of alleged plots against his government as evidence that his administration faces resistance from both domestic and international actors. At the same time, analysts caution that such claims should be approached carefully. International politics is often shaped by a complex mix of competing interests, regional security concerns, economic priorities, and internal political dynamics. Not every challenge confronting a government is necessarily the result of a coordinated campaign. What is beyond dispute, however, is that Burkina Faso continues to stand at a critical crossroads. The country's fight against armed extremist groups remains one of its greatest tests. Its efforts to expand economic opportunity and improve public services will require sustained commitment and stability. Its diplomatic choices will continue to influence relationships across West Africa and beyond. And its citizens will ultimately judge success not by headlines, but by improvements in their daily lives. For millions of Africans, the story of Ibrahim Traoré has become larger than the story of one individual. It has become part of a broader conversation about sovereignty, about development, about security, about the future direction of African nations in an increasingly competitive global landscape. Whether his policies will achieve their long-term goals is a question that only time can answer. History has repeatedly shown that meaningful national transformation is neither quick nor easy. It demands resilience from leaders, participation from citizens, and institutions capable of enduring beyond any single administration. As the world continues to watch Burkina Faso, one thing is certain. The country's future will not be shaped by rumors alone. It will be shaped by the decisions made by its leaders, the determination of its people, the resilience of its institutions, and the ability of all stakeholders to pursue peace, security, and sustainable development. For now, Ibrahim Traoré remains at the center of one of Africa's most compelling political stories. Supporters will continue to celebrate his vision. Critics will continue to question his approach. Observers will continue to analyze every development. And history will continue to record each chapter as it unfolds. Thank you for watching. If you found this report insightful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our in-depth coverage of Africa's biggest stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Burkina Faso is charting a new path for the continent, or do you think the challenges ahead will determine a different outcome? We appreciate your respectful opinions, and we'll see you in the next report.
Anyway, we know what is playing out, As I say, the powerful interests do not want Africa to succeed. The same thing is happening in Burkina Faso. These powerful interests do not want Burkina Faso to succeed. When you are wallowing in poverty, maybe you are struggling, battling with poverty, and you think people, or you are shouting for people to help you. There are people who benefit from such condition. There are people who benefit to see you poor, to see you broke. And these people, sometimes they can be internal and external. Externals collaborating with internals. Because some of these external factors could not have taken place or may not really be possible without the cooperation of internal people, And that's why Ibrahim Traoré is so determined to make sure that whoever goes against his wish or his ideas or what he wants or he's intending to build in Burkina Faso faces the consequences. That's why many people see him as a dictator, because they believe, they think, in a democratic setting, some of the things he's doing shouldn't be allowed. But then you wonder, you should also ask yourself, what positive impact democracy, the so-called democracy, has done for Africans. What benefit do you get from democracy? That's what many people say. You see, mostly people who support Ibrahim Traoré believe that democracy has done nothing but hurt Africans, And it is not actually designed for the benefit of Africans. Look at all the democratic elected leaders across African countries. Look at them. what is their citizen enjoying? You know, how is those countries? There you see their citizens, and to think some of them even rig themselves into the position. Yeah, corruption, all in the name of democracy, casting vote, and the powerful end up rigging the vote. So is that the actual democracy? Because if you are to define a democracy, democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So, but a government is a situation whereby the people itself cannot govern. You see, it's no longer democracy by default. It's no longer democracy. It has shifted from democracy to maybe nepotism, because what is happening now in most African nations is after ruling, you bring in someone to come and rule. Those who are known, who are seen or being considered as the leaders of tomorrow's, do not see the chance. In my country, only to get a presidential ticket, you will be spending over $80,000 to get a presidential ticket. Yeah. And where will a common average man see such money to be able to become a president in his country? When you look at all these things, you ask yourself, is democracy actually the best for Africa? Is it actually the best? Since, yeah, we see foreign nations who are practicing these things and it's going well. Yeah, we see Western countries is going well. Why? Because they stick to the actual plan. But African leaders do not stick to the actual plan. Sorry to say that. Because government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But they change it to government of themselves. I mean, government of the class, of the high class, by the high class and for the high class. Yeah, it's only themselves, those high class people, they are the only one ruling. You cannot see an average man occupying any political position in any African country. Why? Because the system the system is very difficult for an average or common man to get into. As I say, where will a common man be seeing 50,000 or 80,000 US dollar, to be able to get a ticket? Now, after getting a ticket, you start doing campaign for who will come and vote for you. And you see what Ibrahim TRAORÉ is always saying, that these systems are not for the benefit of Africa. They cannot benefit Africa. It may be benefiting the Western countries, but Africa, because our mindsets are very structured in a different way. Yeah, mindset of black people are structured in a different way. But that's why you see Ibrahim TRAORÉ, a lot of people in Burkina Faso are happy with him, despite not being democratically elected, despite entering as a president in a military coup. Yeah, people are happy with him because people are really seeing the benefits, the policies, he's making. People are feeling it. He's prioritizing Burkina Faso for Burkina Faso. How many of your country people are prioritizing your country for your country? Instead, what they are busy is looting, and all this whole thing they are looting, they are taking it away overseas, abroad. And you come out to judge Ibrahim TRAORÉ because he became a president in a military coup and not by casting of vote. You that got casted, you that got yourself into that position, what have you done for your people? Anyway, I guess everyone knows, everyone has opinion. So, yeah, regardless, people, we also have a different opinion concerning Burkina Faso and Ibrahim TRAORÉ. But what I believe is as long as the average or common people in Burkina Faso are happy with him. With the things we see online, yeah, many people are really happy with him. I'm not saying everybody because you can't satisfy everybody. But with the things we see, you can tell that, yeah, a lot of people, average people, are really happy with that young man. And kudos to him, as long as they are happy. That means he's a good leader and he's doing well. and whoever tries to sabotage him or come against him will face the full weight of the law. Anyway, thank you for watching, and what do you think? Let me get your opinion on the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.